Hey, what's up, YouTube? Welcome to Play It Painted Live. We are going to try out the what was this thing called? Google Hangouts. We're going to try out the Google Hangouts version of the live stream. Now, last week I tried out the XSplit broadcast version of the live stream, and I thought that was pretty good, but I'm still working on the camera angles, and I wanted to try out this version of the live stream stuff to see if if this makes any more sense or not. With my new enhanced monitor system, higher internet, and all that stuff, I thought maybe we would be able to do a stream, just kind of spur the moment thing, and see how this is any better or worse. I just want to kind of test out the format here. So if you'll bear with me tonight, we're just still trying to figure out exactly how we're going to do this. And so I am pulling this up on the other monitor here, which is the big monitor. And I'm going to hit mute. There we go. And I got the chat open, and no one's watching right now, but that's fine. We'll see if people hop on. And the other thing about this format, the one thing that is immediately better about this format is that this is a hangout format, so that if people people who watch the show and occasionally hop on, say Cameron or Tin Man or Viv or any of those guys, Corey, any of those guys decide, hey, I'm going to hop on because I want to talk about something. This is the format to do it. The only downside I see to this is that this format is limited to one camera angle. And I guess what I could do if I really wanted to is I could do I could use a second account, join the Hangout, so that I actually two cameras in the account, and it would switch back and forth and that kind of thing. But that's just wonky. It's it's unpredictable. You can't really control how things are going to work and whatnot. Okay, so anyways, that's kind of the plan for tonight. We're going to work on this Wild in the Street stuff, and I've got some other projects here at work too. And it's good to be back at the hobby, okay? Because that move and my upcoming new child, that is gonna impact this and the channel significantly, I feel. So being able to grab a live stream or do a live stream when I can is something I'm gonna try to take advantage of. The other thing you might notice if you're tuning in, this is a Tuesday night rather than a Wednesday night. I don't know what my new night will be on a regular, or even if it's not a regular basis here on the channel. I don't know what that night is. It will most likely be Tuesday or a Wednesday night, but I can't say. I'm leaning towards Tuesday night. Tuesday night might actually be the night to stream, because Thursday, Thursday may be the actual gaming night. Okay, so anyways, if you're just tuning in, welcome to Play It Painted Live. Let us know what you're painting, what you should be painting. Let me know if this video quality is coming in a little bit better or not. It seems like it is. I feel like the video quality on the single camera Hangout might be a little bit better than what we saw last week with the XSplit broadcast version. So anyways, I'm gonna get a little caffeine here. Tonight's gonna be more of a build night. When I moved over here again, I had nothing really set up to paint. Shadow Cat saying, hey, here it's Wednesday morning. Welcome to the stream, Shadow Cat. You're saying it's Wednesday morning. I'm assuming you're in Australia. Either way, welcome to the stream. Thanks for tuning in. But yeah, we're gonna just play around with the format for a while. Things are gonna be a little bit unstable, but we're gonna feel our way around to what I'm hoping is going to be a better stream. So anyway, let's talk about what's on the desk here, because it's kind of a mess. There's a lot going on. First up, let me show you guys what we did last week. So last week we finished painting this guy. This is Sulla from Arena Rex. So if you're looking for better photos of this guy, you can check my Instagram at PlayItPainted. Oh, you're in the UK. See, I'm just totally gone. I'm just totally wasted. Maybe I always thought Australia was in the future, and I know UK is ahead. I think UK is ahead of Pacific time zone by like 8 or 9 hours. So that makes sense. It'd be very early morning over there in the UK. Anyway, here's Sulla. Again, I opted for the helmeted version, and this is what we painted last week on the show. I'm going to put Sulla away for now. He's going to hang out with his other Arena Rex buddies. And so I decided to build some stuff that I had that I'd been meaning to. This is all personal stuff, not working on any commissions at the moment, because I totally cleared all my commissions during the move, and I'm not yet taking any new commissions. I'm just going to kind of ease my way back into a groove. And that way, when I do start taking commissions, I can be relatively confident in my ability to complete them by the deadlines that I give my clients. Okay, and you know, with all the life changes going on, I need to be sure. I don't want to screw people over with, you know, hey, I just moved, I can't find my stuff, or hey, I just moved and I had a baby, and now I don't know if I have time to actually finish what I said I'd finish for you. That kind of stuff. Anyway, personal stuff, right? This is what we're doing tonight. Personal stuff. This is Avarice and Greed from Guild Ball. Okay, and I built them last night. So this is Avarice, right? You can see the magnet there in his chest. Now, what I think is really cool is that this whole thing is set up to be magnetized. So, you know, you have this. So for Avarice, you know, when it's just Avarice, they give you this this chest plate, and I don't know if I'm putting this on. This looks like right. Looks right. Right. So you have this little, like, it's basically a tether. You have a tether there on Avarice's chest because he's kind of like he's carrying little man Greed around, and so, you know, again, it's really cool that the set comes with all the magnets you need, and there are pre-sunken slots specifically for the magnets. So you get this kind of, you know, baby Bjorn setup. My son was looking at this model earlier today, and I said, hey, this is how Daddy used to carry you around when you were smaller. So very cool model. So Avarice and Greed, you know, they start off as this composite model when you hire them onto your team, and then during the game you can pop Greed off. Here's the little Greed by himself. He can pop off, and you actually end up with 2 characters on your team rather than 1. And this is a very, very strong mechanic. So Avarice and Greed ends up on a lot of competitive lists because that extra activation is really, really significant in the game of Guild Ball. So you'll see a lot of Avarice and Greed. I always wanted to paint Avarice and Greed. Bought this miniature quite a while ago, but, you know, with commissions rolling in and then the move, it had been sitting around, really hadn't done anything. So that's what I built. Avarice and Greed, and you can see the base stamp that I'm using there. This is from Happy Seppuku. I think they call it the herringbone. I think it's called like a herringbone brick base stamp. I did that here on a 50. I was also doing some base stamping. This is using Milliput terracotta. Now, you don't have to use terracotta. Terracotta is actually a little bit more expensive than the standard yellow milliput. So, you know, bear that in mind. But what I do think about terracotta is I feel like it's just firm enough and it dries really, it dries harder than the standard milliput yellow. So it's a stronger material. So I probably, given the choice, I would still buy more yellow. At this particular time, they were out of yellow, so I bought terracotta. But I do see the value in, you know, if you are going to spend the extra $1 or whatever on terracotta, it's pretty cool. So I made a whole bunch of these. Herringbone bases. I also used some cobblestone ones. And then I also made these. These are kind of random diamond plate or random tech bases. These are also really cool. These are all, once again, these are all Happy Seppuku base stamps, and I love them. I think they're fantastic. Okay, so I did that a few nights ago. I actually need more of these herringbone bases. So I'm gonna whip up a quick batch right now while we're working on stuff. So tonight will pretty much be a build night. We can chat about whatever you want to talk about. But again, I'm just trying out the feed. Now, what I would ask you guys that are tuning in or watching, let me know the quality of this feed and compare it to the one with Sulla last week. Because I really want to know, should I go with a single camera Google Hangout feed for the live stream, or should I move to that XSplit feed, which doesn't allow other people on, but will give me multiple camera angles? And so that's what I want to know from you guys. Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the chat if you want. What's better for you? Which video quality is better? I personally am starting to think that the Hangout video quality is actually a little bit better. And I don't know why, but it seems like it. I don't see how it could be, but it does seem like it's a little bit better. Anyway, let's get to work. Earlier this evening, I put some of this this Vallejo plastic putty here in the slots for these 30 millimeter round slotted bases because I want to stamp them. So I guess what I'll do is I'll mix up some more terracotta, and I'm going to stamp a bunch more of these bases because I think they're fantastic. I don't know. I can use them on a lot of things. The cobblestone, you can see the cobblestone bases. They don't, to me, they don't come out as nice. I don't think they're as nice. I could also do more plank bases, wood plank bases, but I think I'm starting to really like that herringbone stuff more. And I'm gonna press this stuff down a little bit because this stuff is drying. You can actually, when it's fully dry, you can sand it. This is just calcium carbonate. But at least for now, I'll just push it down a little bit because I'm gonna stamp these. There we go. What I don't want to do is I don't want to have the situation where, like here, where you've got a bunch of milliput that just fills the middle there and then leaves a weird crease on the top. Okay. Milliput gets a little messy, so I'm going to wear gloves for this. So let's get our gloves. And I'm gonna, how many bases do I have here to stamp? 5, 10, I have 12 bases to stamp. So if I pick, let's see, if I pick like 8 more herringbone and 4 more random plate, that should be good. Now, I don't think I'm using any of the other bases anytime soon. let's do that. You also want a little bit of water when you do when you work with Milliput, right? That's my audio too. I would really like to know how this stuff is going. But anyway. And while I'm asking for stuff that with not a lot of people viewing, if you want, hop on. I'd like to see how the feed, how the connectivity actually does with the feed. Like, shoot me a message, say, hey, I want to hop on for a sec. We can chat. But I don't know. I don't really know who's around because I've given like no notice that I'm going to do this stream. Okay, so even though it's 12 bases here, that's not. It doesn't actually require a lot of Milliput. So I'm going to take about. I'm going to do about ½ an inch off of each of my little loaves here. So let's do right to there. Right. When you use any kind of tools with Milliput, put a little water on them. My recommendation. And here's the yellow. Oh, just more of a. Okay, so you want to do equal parts. So make sure you cut an equal amount. There we go. Then we're going to go ahead and take these, and we're just going to mash them up. It's not the most exciting stuff, I realize, guys, but hey, this is what you signed up for when you hop on Play It Paint It Live. You're at the mercy of whatever I happen to be working on. And the couple of feeds before the move, I actually wasn't doing much painting. You guys recall, like I was like, oh, let's do Ninja All-Stars. Let's talk about some gaming stuff, and all that stuff. So I don't know if I'll be back to, if I can get back to my hyper speed ability to finish projects. I mean, at the other place, I think that's you just have to regain that as the rest of your setup starts to fall back into routine. Because as of right now, like, I'm way out of routine. My whole family's way out of routine. My wife is, she's at the doctor's twice a week now because as the pregnancy progresses, it's considered a high-risk pregnancy because of her age. So we're in the doctor all the time. The thing, though, there is that this baby is, by all accounts, appears to be super, super healthy. So we're not really worried about it. We understand the precautions, but right now it's more of a nuisance than anything else. Let's see. So let's see. The herringbone pattern does look nice. I use the Batman Marvel mini game bases, and I use gray stuff to fill the slot. I then push the mini and remove the overflow of the gray stuff. Well, that's cool. Okay, so that's a real straightforward, and given night models, the way night models are built, that's a good way of putting those pieces together. Because a lot of, especially with my experience with the Batman miniatures game has been, those pieces are really, really kind of flimsy. They're on tiptoes, like Batgirl's on a tiptoe, but she has a giant metal cape flying up behind her. And so when you do what I do and you replace the bases, like when you do this kind of stuff, you got to take them off that metal tab. That makes the model pretty unstable. Whereas, in the case of night models, if you leave the tab in and you glue the tab into the slot, that base, that's going to be very stable. And that base has a texture to it. It has kind of like a broken street or a rock, type texture to it. And so that's good. That's a good thing. Okay, so now you can tell when these are ready because the Milliput will feel warm in your hands. The reaction mixing the activator and the epoxy will it's an exothermic reaction, so it'll be a little warm. That's a big word, kids. Exothermic. All right. So, and then you'll start to be able to eyeball how much you actually need. Now, these bases, let me show you something. So these bases one of the reasons why they came out so well is because they're solid all the way through. These are weird Malifaux bases, and they're solid all the way through. You don't have that slot. You're not pushing material up against a giant gap. It's more conservative of the material. You don't spend a whole lot. My experience with 30 mil bases is you want something about the size of a small pea on a 30 mil round lip base, right? Something about like that. This might even be a little bigger than I want. So I'm going to go a little bit smaller. I'm going to go more like a corn kernel. I'm going to go corn kernel like that, right? And for now, I'm just going to put that there because let's see if I can actually come up with 12 of these. May not be able to, but with my little pile here. Let's see how many I can come up with. So again, about the size of a corn kernel. I'm just going to put those there. From a completely technical standpoint, I really should let the plastic putty dry all the way through. But I want to move on to the rest of the project here. So I'm going to play a little fast and loose here with the dry times. So if it screws up, I'll just accept it for what it is. I made a bad judgment call. But if it works, great. If I get away with it, right, then great. All right. Now this is a slightly different base. That one's actually going to take probably a little bit less material. Assuming that I'm not pushing this material all into the slot. Because before I wouldn't fill the slot and I would just stamp the base and all the Milliput would run directly into that, and it just wouldn't serve a good purpose. All right. Looks like I'm going to make it and then some. I have a little bit of a surplus here. So I'm going to break out a couple more bases actually and put a little bit of Milliput on those, and we'll just stamp extra. It doesn't hurt to stamp extra bases, especially if you have good generic patterns that for a fact you can use on a lot of different games, like herringbone, cobblestone. I have the natural ones. I have the wood planks. Those are, for me, those are kind of standard. I guess standard basing that I would use on the 30 millimeter games I play. All right, let's go get some more bases. Seem to recall a couple of these purple guys. These are good Relic Knights bases. So I'll do diamond plate on those. And Do I have any more bases to stamp? I might not. I mean, I've been pretty diligent about going through and stamping as many bases as I could. Wow. Okay, so it's just those two. It's okay. I'm not going to have too much left over anyways. I just don't like to waste batches of Milliput. So I'm going to do that. Looks like I'm going to lose about the size of maybe a single 40 millimeter base here in Milliput. That stuff. Unless I find something really quickly here, that's going to go to waste. Not the end of the world. A little bit of a bummer. Well, here we go. Yeah, I have some more. So, see, I'm going to use, these haven't been filled. I'm just going to stamp a couple of these without filling them. And so they're going to take a bit more Milliput to fill. So I'm going to do like full-size P's on them. That's even then seems like that's too much. Let's get down to, like, I'm going to do 3 of those bases then. I'm going to try for a third one. Let's see what we can get away with. There's that, and here's the last one. Okay, good. All right, so now that I've got all my Milliput doled out, now I'm going to make the basic shape that they're going to be in when they get stamped. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these and basically flatten discs out. Okay. And like these Relic Knights bases don't have a slot. So it's super easy to do to like make your shape on these. So I'm going to spread that out. And it's much more efficient. Like these bases are ever so slightly bigger than a standard 30 mil lipped base. The actual, like we'll call it the flat area, the flat top area of the base is actually larger than most round lip 30 mil. And I can do that with, it doesn't require a lot of Milliput to do that. Here's a standard. Let me clip that little tag off. It's bothering me. I'll file the nub off there. Here's a standard 30 mil, a more standard, I should say. And I'm going to spread it around there. You can already see it's kind of falling in that gap. See that? That's a problem. So I tried to shortcut it, and it's not gonna look 100% great. There's a cat knocking on my door. Let me let him in. What? Yes, what? Oh, my cat gets lonely out there and wants to come in. All right. So you can see I have a crease here. I have a line. See that? It's a problem. So I'm going to have to stamp this with something somewhat irregular or somewhat linear. Those are your options. And I have 3 of them. Wow, another. I'm going to tag like that. Okay. So again, what you don't want to do is you want to avoid rolling too much into that gap there. But it looks like it's just super hard to do with the slot still in place. Okay. And here's the final one. Yeah, this one, well, I guess they don't look awful. They're a little weird. They have a little bit of an irregularity in the middle. It's not awful. Okay. Now let's do all of these ones that are filled. Same thing. I'm just going to make discs. And I can already tell these are easier to spread they're similar to the bases that don't have slots in them. So all right. So once again, welcome to the feed. Let us know what you're painting or what you should be painting. Tonight we're just going to do a bunch of building. I did label it Wild in the Streets because the plan is to build some of my Wild in the Streets Kickstarter. And I'll talk about the game a little bit as well. But right now, I need to stamp a bunch of bases. So then, there we go. Okay. So I guess I'll ramble while I'm doing this because this is super monotonous. For those of you who may know, I have a fairly unusual name. Okay, there's a bit of history behind my name, why I was named the way I was. Hello from Oregon. Hey, what's up, Dagobah Dave? Cool name, by the way. So I do have a little bit of an unusual name, and it's funny. It has its own history behind it. It's a little bit of a family name. My parents gave me this name for actually somewhat patriotic reasons, but it's an unusual name. And not a day goes by without my name being mispronounced, misspelled, or basically, mishandled in some way or other, right? So I guess I have a bit of a, I don't know. It's to me, it's one of the more interesting topical things about me, like about a person, right? I mean, when people say, name something interesting about you, some people will say, oh, well, you might say, hey, I build and paint miniatures. Okay, that's pretty interesting. One of the things that's interesting about me, I feel, is my name, because my name, I feel, helped shape a lot of things about me, a lot of my outlook on the world, a lot of my interactions with people, all based on this idea that I have this, non-standard name, and all the character, I like to say, built from having that kind of a name, right? Because having an unusual name, in my opinion, does build character. It does force you to live a little bit along the outside of the norm. It could be in small ways, could be in big ways, but it's just a thing about you that if you have an unusual name that you just kind of grow up with, and it teaches you things about not only about yourself but about other people and how they deal with your unusual name, how they approach your unusual name. I, for the most part, I went through, like a lot of young kids, you go through that phase where your name, you're somewhat embarrassed about your name, and you wish you just had a normal name. I had siblings who all have fairly typical American, or at least American relatable names. But my name was a standout. It was very different. And it has to do with the fact that, I'm the youngest of 5 children from an immigrant family that naturalized, came over here to the United States. And I was, during the naturalization process, my entire family, learned a lot about this country and became very deeply patriotic, like very, very deeply loyal to this country. And so my parents gave me a name of, someone who helped the Wright brothers. He had an unusual first name, right? That's where my name comes from. So there's an aeronautical engineer named Octave Chanute, and there was a town in Kansas named Chanute, Kansas, and it's named for this man. This also happens to be the town that my parents landed in when they came over to this country. And while my mother was pregnant with me, she visited this aerospace museum in Chanute, Kansas. She learned all about this man, Octave Chanute, and decided to name me after that man. And that kind of became a big deal. Like, I was named after this engineer. And so really cool, neat little story behind it, whatever, picture in the paper. It's a family name within the Chanutes. I mean, there's a picture of me as an infant with Octave Chanute III, I think is his name, and he was the then mayor of the town of Chanute. And so, anyways, I grew up with that name, right? And like I was saying before, like any other kid, okay, it's an interesting name, but young kids, they don't want to be interesting. Young kids just want to fit in. They don't want to be. They don't want to have anything interesting about themselves, or at least I didn't for a period, for a very short period. I think it's going to be different for all kids, for each kid, on how normal they choose to be and how fiercely independent they can become when they realize that there are things about them that are just going to be flat out different. And for me, there was a lot of things that were flat out different culturally, maybe even psychologically, maybe even intellectually, but it all kind of culminated and was symbolized by this idea that I have an unusual name. All right. But anyways, let me finish up the rambling here, because we're getting to a point here where we're going to switch tasks. But essentially, today I was reading an article. Somebody posted an article on my Facebook feed about, kids with unusual names and how teachers that mispronounce kids' unusual names, how damaging it is for the kids. And, this article even goes so far as to call it bigotry, microaggression, bigotry. It's a form of prejudice and all this stuff. And, these children need to be protected, and they need to feel included, and they need to feel safe, and, their self-esteem gets hurt and all this stuff. Well, I'm here to tell you from my own personal experience, as a guy who came to this country right after the Vietnam War, where people were basically distrustful and ignorant of different countries in the South Pacific, the Asian Pacific Islands, and probably still a little sore about Vietnam. For a kid growing up in that atmosphere, and having the unusual name that I had, and dealing with some of the things that I did as, the child of the only actual, natural born American citizen, born with immigrants and living on the East Coast and all that stuff. There were a lot of ways in which I was an outsider, and a lot of ways in which I felt like an alien, or felt, secluded from the larger group of people. And I'm here to tell you, after 42 years of that there were some bad moments there. There were some bad things associated with that, but there's also a lot of positives. There's also a lot of strength to be gained from a certain level of adversity. You know, there weren't any, because I had a weird name and I was a weird looking kid or whatever, my life wasn't in danger. I'm not talking about that kind of adversity. Wow, that's a really, really bad one. Well, that one's probably not even going to make it. Yikes. I'll figure out what to do with that one later. Nothing like that, but there's some character building. There's some moments there. And for the part about the article that really offended me, that I found to be not so much offensive, but maybe upsetting, or, well, what's the word? Off-putting. There we go. Off-putting to me was the idea that somebody would go so far as to say that, you know, having a substitute teacher mispronounce your name is an act of bigotry. I think that's ridiculous. I think that's an act of bigotry when you belittle, you know, real, true acts of bigotry, prejudice, racism with something like that. Because when you try to reduce a real issue like that to something as small, in my opinion, small, as the mispronunciation of a name, and ascribe it to a particular culture or a particular unsavory social dynamic, I think you're really doing some injustice to the real issue of bigotry, of racism, of whatever, right? And I take issue with that, and I have a real problem with it. I don't think that's cool at all. And I also don't think that coddling kids and, you know, accusing ignorant people of being bigots because they can't read a name off a roster, or accusing them of being culturally insensitive if they butcher a name, I think is ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and it's gone too far. And it really just kind of put me on edge today. And I spoke up and I said, hey, as somebody who has a name that gets butchered on a daily basis, who has encountered at least some forms of racism, overt racism during his lifetime, I'm here to tell you that mispronouncing a name is not racist. That having an unusual name isn't damaging or destroying, or having it mispronounced isn't seclusionary for a child. It's actually, it's not great, but it can be. It's an opportunity to be really character building. This is, again, just my opinion. And my kids are going to have weird names. They're going to rock some unusual names. And it may be a little bit tough for them at times. But it's going to be so cool when they embrace that, when they understand, hey, you know, my name is giving me a little bit of individuality. It's given me a little bit of, it has a history to it, has a meaning behind it. And it's not, you know, it's not like the same dozen or 2 dozen names. It wasn't a trending name at the time, you know, they were born. I think that's all really cool. All right, so I'm going to do that. What other bases should I do? I did a bunch of herringbone. Do I need to do more cobblestone? I don't want to. I don't think that's a very good stamp. I just don't think the cobblestone is a very good. I think it's very good. Let's do the diamond plate on the Relic Knights bases. You notice I'm just spreading a thin layer of water on these. Just makes it a little bit easier to remove them from the stamp. And I stamp them real quick. I know you're supposed to let these sit a little bit longer than I do, but they come out fine. They're fine once they're painted. You stamp them and you're good to go. I'm gonna do a couple more diamond plate. All right, there we go. The herringbone. The herringbone might be my favorite of these. I have 6 bases left. But I run the risk of too many herringbone bases. So I guess what I'll do is I will make. I guess I'll make some wood bases, some wood plank bases. Why not? I don't know. So anyways, that was kind of my random thought. What do you guys think about unusual names? And do you have a name that is butchered all the time? And what kind of interesting interactions have you derived from it? Because me personally, I have derived all kinds of really cool, interesting interactions from having my name butchered all the time. For one, there's just so many cool things you can learn about somebody as after or as they butcher your name. Like, you know, one of the things that even the article points out, it's like, you know, I can't say your name. It's too hard for my tongue, so I'm gonna call you Chuck, right? And this has actually happened to me before. I mean, it's happened to me something like 20, 30 years ago, kind of the old school ignorance. Today it might pass for prejudice or bigotry on some scale. That, you know, if you have a strange ethnic name or a foreign name, that somebody in this country is just gonna dismiss that altogether and call you what they want to call you. And yeah, there are people that do that, and those people are pricks. Let's just be real here. But that's not the norm. It's not the norm. It doesn't happen as often these days. And it's pretty easy to call out when it does happen, okay? So you know immediately that guy's a piece of shit. Hey, Octave, the bases are looking nice. Hey, what's up, Slow Death Games? Like for me, for example, I had a guy, I want to say this is like 10 years ago, some idiot at a party or whatever, an older guy, probably in his 50s or whatever. You know, he introduces himself. Hey, he's had a few at the time, right? He's had a few drinks, and you know, when you have a few drinks, you just say what you're going to say. And this is at a party, a social engagement, whatever. And he's like, "Hey, what's your name?" I introduce myself. "Hey, my name is Octave. I can't say that. I'm just gonna call you Steve because you look like a Steve." Or he picked like a normal name like that, right? And so I said to him, "Hey, I'm just gonna call you Small Dick," which in my country means used car salesman. Like I basically just said that back to him, and I think he was too drunk to get it. But you know, people are gonna have a go at you. Have a go back at them, right? Don't take shit. Just do it. Especially when they're going to do stuff like that. You can also troll people with unusual names. Like one of my favorite memories from high school, one of the funniest things I think I've done and in high school is we were in the library once with a group of kids. And these were honors kids. You know, these were the smart kids, the richer white kids or whatever in our school. And, you know, they asked, the teacher had us talk about our names and stuff. And at some point, you know, I gave my spiel about my name that you guys got earlier in the show. But at some point I decided to screw with them a little bit. And I go, well, that's actually my Americanized name, right? Because that's the thing. When people come over to this country, especially like Asian Chinese immigrants will come over and they have a name that is considered to be difficult to pronounce in the Western world. So they'll pick so their name might be Sun Yi Kong or whatever, and they're going to change, you know, but you can call him Steve, right? That's a double-edged sword. It's cool when the kids decide, you know, when a kid is of a certain maturity and he can decide, okay, I'm just going to have this kind of alias, and this is kind of cool, and they embrace that and becomes part of their identity. The other side of it is when they're ascribed a name or they're told a name, and then they're kind of taught to be ashamed of their real name. So there's two sides to that, right? But anyways, back to my story, and I know I'm rambling quite a bit, is I actually wrote on a piece of paper, I wrote out this name, and I wrote P-H-O-U-C as the first name, and the last name Y-U. And I wrote it down, and I passed around the table and said, here's my real name. And I wanted to go by Octave. And they passed it around the table. And I had people try to pronounce the name. And so so I have all these kids in the library saying, fuck you. And I thought it was pretty awesome, personally. The other Filipino kid in the class who recognizes that's a Vietnamese name for one, it's a Vietnamese name, and it's a dope Vietnamese name, starts laughing. And he's like, you're a bad person, Octave. And but two, I mean, come on, you gotta have fun with stuff like that. Being able to turn a difficult to pronounce name into an asset and into a means of entertainment and even character building, I think is really cool. It's not a microaggression, people. It's not destroying lives that some idiot doesn't know how to say her name. So anyways, that's my point of the story. Honestly, fuck you politically correct people. It's not racism. Stop turning everything into racism, because that's racism. And when everything's racist, then nothing's racist, okay? And the bigots actually win in that case. So fuck you once again. Don't do it. Anyway, I'll get back to this in a sec. All right. Okie doke. So we're going to let those bases dry. And I'm going to show off some of the models from Slow Death Games. This is Wild in the Streets. Finally cracking open my Kickstarter here. Now, this isn't the first time I've had Wild in the Streets on my channel before. They're probably, in my opinion, one of the most interesting genres of miniature games out. Just a really fascinating game, cool sculpts, very fun miniatures game. Is it a tightly controlled head-to-head epic contest the way Guild Ball is? No. Is it large scale, spend thousands of dollars hoping to have an army one day and power list your way to victory the way like a 40K is? Absolutely not. Wild in the Streets takes the aesthetic of miniature games, modernizes it, and almost puts it in a more like a casual, almost like a party style setting. I almost consider Wild in the Streets to be like a party game in that it's cultural, it's conversational, it's it is what I'm looking for. It's fringe. It's based on fringe. It's fringe subcultures fighting each other, and it pokes a little fun at them, but also shows you some really cool things. And once again, sculpts are fantastic. So for those of you guys who might remember, I think this was the very first Wild in the Streets miniature that popped up on my show, on my feed. And he's definitely the first one I painted. This is the one, this was a promo model that I got from Wild in the Streets creator Chris Kohler, who I ran into while we were doing some friends and I were doing some gaming. I think we're in the middle of a tournament or something at our local gaming store, Comic Quest. And he ran into us, watched us playing, and introduced us to his game. I'd seen it on the SoCal tabletop group, thought it was really cool, and said, hey, I'm really interested in seeing how this game develops. And he gave each of us one of these models. And I think because I already have one done already, I'm gonna keep this one totally undone. I'm gonna just keep him in the package because he gets to be a cool prize or something down the line since I already have one. So you get that guy. And then you have, kind of his gang, which are like the Crusties, right? So these are like, you can see the poses on these miniatures are fantastic. Most of them are single piece sculpts, which I love. They're, you know, one of the downsides to that is they are a little 2D in their posing, but when you consider that these are often, Chris tells me that these are often based on real people. These 2D poses are natural poses that these folks would be in. So, you know, raising the beer can here. This guy here, he's just ready to shotgun a beer. I think he's gonna crush it. Maybe he's done and he's about to crush it on his forehead. But these are really cool. So these would be Krusties with the first model, right? So I got Krusties. I previously on this channel I had the Murder Cult Girls, the Goth Leader. What are the other ones I have? I'll recall here in a minute. But I had two gangs to begin with. I had the Murder Cult Girls and I think the Goths or the Death Rockers or something. I think they were the Goths. But anyways, so Krusties. Then you've got the Skinheads. Oh, they are based on real people. Yeah, that's cool. Then you get the Skinheads. These are not your, you know, when you say skinhead these days, people think of like modern day neo-Nazis, but these are a little more classical skinheads. And here was an interesting thing. When we were playing, like Chris was showing us the game, Dave Blood and I, he was running us through a game in San Diego way back, like early part of the year. And he had painted skinheads. And one of the models was painted black, and I was like, "Wow, black skinhead! You know, that's something you don't see." And he explained to us, "Hey, the original skinhead movement actually was like there were a lot of African Americans in the original skinhead movement, and it really was. It was co-opted by, you know, the white supremacists and neo-Nazis to what it is today. And so these are the classical skinheads. So there's one here. I like these like simple poses. I love them. Like they're just guy in a hat. Really cool. So there's one pose. Here's the skinhead's leader. And he has his towel, and there's something written on the towel, and I forget what's written on the towel. I want to do something a little different. I don't know what I'm going to put on the towel of mine, but it's not going to be what. Oh, not African American since they were Brits, but yeah, sorry. Yeah, but yeah, you know, it was a black movement and co-opted. It became co-opted and eventually assumed by the neo-Nazi white supremacists. Anyways, so this guy here, you know, he is bald. You could actually paint this guy to be like a more modern day looking skinhead, but I don't think I'm going to do that. We'll figure it out. Honestly, I don't know for sure until I just start putting paint on the miniature. And then here's the third skinhead. I like this guy. Might be my favorite sculpt of the whole thing. This guy here. Look at him. Like he's like love the cap. He's got the boxing pose. I'm calling him the pudgy pugilist. This guy's awesome. Love this guy. Look at this guy. That's great. That is fantastic. All right. So there's that guy. Then you have the other gang that I got were the straight edge guys, right? So here's the straight edge guys. Like this guy here has just got great energy. Again, it's a 2D pose, but there's something to be said about a nice single piece miniature. For those of us that play like the more historical grade miniatures, like we'll say, you know, like your Saga, maybe even Bolt Action, but Bolt Action has plastics now. When you're talking single piece metal, there's typically not a lot of quality in these in those sculpts. But in these sculpts, I feel like there's a lot of really good quality here. Like I would put this probably the one of the bigger names in the metal single piece sculpts would be North Star Miniatures. They make minis for Inner Majesty's Name. They've made miniatures for Bushido. They make a lot of like Osprey miniatures, and I would put these up against North Star any day of the week. And I like North Star miniatures, but I mean, that's what I'm saying about the quality here. And maybe the camera isn't doing this guy much justice, but hopefully as we're starting to focus in a little bit better, you can see there's great detail on this guy. The faces in particular are really strong, really characterful. And I think they really did that well. Again, because Chris is pointing out, these are real people. And love the energy on this guy. Love the pose. So some straight edge guys. Is your typical, you know, long shorts, big cap, wearing dude with a hatchet. Why not? Gonna run down the street? Sure. One thing that I notice about like the metal casts and the sculpts is when you sculpt them like this, you can really put some character in the face. When you look at like the new like 3D rendered sculpts and stuff, plastic stuff, or even some of the resin stuff, you know, that stuff is all done. It's all rendered on ZBrush or whatever, and it's too clean. It's too perfect. It lacks character because it's just too perfect. Like they look more like mannequins, whereas these look like expressive people. I was just complaining today about you know, one of my issues I had with Malifaux going from metal to plastic is it's like, okay, you know, the artists do a fair enough job, but it's like they forgot what made Malifaux so cool in the first place, and that's character. And when you have character sculpted into the faces like this, it's quite a letdown, if, you know, to see them go to like a plastic where everybody has this like this cosmetically perfect symmetrical face. The guy you just showed who's finger pointing is my oldest friend, Rob. Nice. He's pretty cool. I like that. I mean, look at their different body types too. I mean, there's this guy here who's just stocky, right? He's just stocky. Like this guy's built. This guy's like he's like a pit bull, man. He's got the low center of gravity. You could just run him at people. Then you've got, you know, some of the crusty guys. This guy here, a little bit lankier. You know, he's still got some beef on him, but he's a little bit lankier. He looks like a guy that's gonna hit you pretty hard, but he's gonna go down pretty hard too, you know. And then you've got once again, like, then you got like, you know, the real lean guys. Lean guys, like, take this guy seriously in a fight though. Like lean guys they fight to the bitter end, man. That guy's he's gonna be there. And then once again, my favorite, the pudgy pugilist, dude. This guy's just so awesome. I love this dude, man. He's like by far one of the coolest miniatures I think I've come across in a while. I might be really looking forward to painting these. Here's the third straight edge guy. Love baseball bats, like broken bottles. That's what the guys wield. Some of them have blades. Some of them are just holding up cans of beer. Like, this is amazing for a theme. Like, right? I mean, when you talk about like most of the 99% of your miniature games, you guys are holding up swords or big giant blades, or they're holding up humongous sci-fi laser guns or bolt guns or whatever. Now you got this Wild in the Streets game. It just dude in a hoodie with a baseball bat, just angry about life or something. Like that guy, that's amazing. That's amazing. Like that's you don't see that in miniature games, and you don't see stuff this cool in a single piece sculpt. Most of the sculpts are single piece. There are some of the murder cult girls, I believe, that are a couple of pieces. Here's one from the Goths that is a couple of pieces. Just, oh my god, the character on the faces are just killing me. How cool they are! Like, absolutely love that. Look at this chick. She's had it rough. She's had a couple rough nights. Look at her face. You know, look at the intensity. Like she's had a couple of mean nights, and she's got this tiny little hat on. She's still adorable. Chick is still adorable, but look at her. Like, I would not fuck with this chick. She will ruin my life, right? But at the same time, you know, I'm gonna be thinking, wow, she's pretty hot. At the same time, you know, the real person this is based on, not the piece of metal. People, oh, you objectify. Like, no, this is a piece of metal. It represents an actual person that I think is pretty damn cool, right? Anyway, so that's it. You know, she's got the baseball bat. That's it. She's got, you know, and she's holding it. And I hate that, like, you can't look at a girl wielding a baseball bat these days and not think Harley Quinn. But hey, you know, it is what it is. I'll send you the link via Facebook. Cool. I'll have a look at that in a minute. I'm going to show off 2 more of your models here, and then we're going to do some pinning and stuff, and we'll see where it goes from there. These were these are like goth models, but they're like, you can use them like alt sculpts for your other gangs. And I told Chris, hey, you know, when I backed the Kickstarter, I was like, yeah, I do have, you know, the other gangs that you sent over, that you were super, super generous in sending over, and I had so much fun painting them and playing games with them. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to back your Kickstarter, but, you know, I want to, obviously I'd like to have more of the range. Look at again, like the characters on the faces are just really what gives the game. Look at the pose is fantastic. You know, this chick is adorable, but also we can tell she's a little dangerous at the same time. Absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. Great dress. I don't know. I'm gonna have a lot of. I think as far as gangs goes, it's these chicks in the dresses I'm gonna have the most fun painting, because I really like that aesthetic. I liked you know, when you talk Malifaux, like my favorite crew is the Showgirls crew. You know, and they're like burlesque girls. They do and entertainers and that kind of stuff. They're also magicians. But this crew is like more goth, right? And so they got this kind of, they have this just fantastic mix of, like, you know, adorable, almost like twisted Victorianism to them, and then they have, and you just look them in the face, and it's like, man, something really messed up is going on behind that face. Can you tell that I had like a little thing for goth girls back in the day? Which is funny because I have absolutely nothing in common with them. And my wife, when she was in high school, she was a goth girl. And I was like, oh, I've always wanted to have a little goth girl. So I, you know, was a single guy. I dated a goth girl. She was a practicing witch. We had nothing in common, but there was still, you know, there was like something there that I've just found really attractive. I don't know. My wife just makes fun of me nonstop about it, because it's like, you like the pretty girls, but you like them messed up in a way. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's like, you know, that's just me personally. I like take something beautiful like that, just on its face beautiful, and then just tweak it ever so slightly. You know, give it just a little bit of edge or something in it, and it does something for me. So so weird confessions here on the stream, but yeah, that's what I like. I'm not gonna apologize for it. So what I have to do now is I am going to pin this arm here onto her. And I'm also going to clip all these. Now I have to be careful here, especially with the heels, these high heels. I'm going to clip all of them off their tags, but I have to be careful not to damage the high heels. It's very easy. It would be very easy to snap those heels off, right? So I'm going to be super, super gentle when taking these off, like much more gentle than I typically am, because I don't want to screw up that detail. I don't like it. Like I've done that with my Takahashi miniatures that have high heels, like Tough Cookie, where you clip a little too violently, and as the tag comes off, it tears the heel off with it, and what you end up with is a model who's kind of just standing on, like floating, as opposed to having that stiletto heel. Incidentally, also a big fan of stiletto heels. All right. So you can see, I'm gonna, let's see. So she's kind of got the boots, so she's okay, and she's got she's got the thick wedge heel. So it's really just this particular piece that's got the daintiness to it. I'm gonna take her. The other thing you can do if you're unsure is you can trim all the way down to like the very, very edge and then just file the rest off. Right? So you could go to there and then just gently file the rest of it off. And I'm gonna just super, super gently trim it off. Pretty nice to have 12 models and only 13 pieces. I like that quite a bit. Because this is the only multi-part model. We talked a little bit on the show about how the game actually works. It uses a deck of cards for activations, and they're actually bonuses, bonus events, and specific bonuses that you throw into that deck. That the deck contains all the units and characters by everyone who's currently playing the game, and it's that single deck that determines your activation order and who gets what upgrades. All right, so now I'm going to drill a teeny tiny little hole into this arm here. It comes with its own little its own little metal nub there, you can see, and a lot of people will just glue that on there. They'll just clean it up and glue that directly into the socket, and that's fine for most people. But that's not a very strong joint. So what I like to do is I like to pin it. Okay, and so I'm going to take this file and actually just kind of file down on a flat edge here into the nub. Right, so I'm filing that nub down a little bit flat. Okay, and again, be very careful with these pieces because they're super fiddly. Next, I'm going to take a tiny little drill. Most people will say use a hand vise, like use a tiny little hand pin vise to do this. I use this crappy cordless drill because I'm lazy. Those pin vise things cramp my hands quite a bit. Learning how to drill with these things is a little bit of a task, but once you get how to do it, it's not that big a deal. The key is getting the drill bit to bite and not going so fast that you melt the metal. And you want a deep enough groove just such that the pin will sit in there. You don't want to drill, you obviously don't want to drill a hole all the way through the limb, but it's got to be deep enough so that the pin has a place to rest. So go slow as you need to, and check your depth often. Like take this and stick it into the, like pull it out of the hole and see how far you actually went. Okay, looks pretty good. All right, so right now I'm just going to take a little bit of wire. I use been using 0.75 millimeter stuff for just about everything now. It's the super thin stuff, and it does the job. You want to clip off a little bit of it. You're going to clip off a little more than you need because you want it to stick out a little bit, because the expectation is that you're going to trim it down. And you take your super glue. My super glue is not open. Hold on one moment. Sometimes I got to just re-puncture the top of the super glue with an old needle. There you go. And this is like twice the size of a pin that I actually need. Let me just stick it in there. Oh. I'm just going to stick it in that hole and let it dry. Whoop. Ooh. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole into where the arm is going to plug in. These are a lot easier to do because you have a lot larger area to work with. Keep plugging that in. Okay, and then finally, I'm going to drill a teeny tiny little hole into the foot. And with her in heels, this is the tricky part. So I'm going to take this file. I'm going to file down a flat area here. I'm actually going to file down both of the front parts of the feet there, nice and flat. And then you can't really go straight through because you don't have enough of an you don't have enough metal there. You're going to go right through the foot. So you have to come in at a very slight angle to kind of go in with the arch of the foot. And again, if you're using standard paper clips for this, you're way too big. All right. You guys have any questions or anything? Let me know. I know I'm off camera doing this, but this is the precision one. I'll show you what I'm doing using a much chunkier model. But anyways, so I got a tiny hole in there. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to cut off a little bit of wire here. And just stick that in the foot. And then we're going to set her aside to dry. Okay. So I'm going to be 13 pins, getting the this entire set of models ready, which is pretty funny because, like I said, last night I put together Avarice and Greed, and for those 3 models, I was at 8 pins. So here's the pin coming out of the foot. You can see it right there. See that? That's all you really need. And that's, believe it or not, that's going to give the model a lot of stability when it goes into the slotted base. Right, so let's keep going. I typically, when I'm pinning like large groups of models like this, I start with the most difficult or the most fiddly models, and I work my way to the chunkier models. I'm just going to clip that off. So I clip the tab off. So this is real simple stuff because now we're at single piece models. File it down. Right. And then drill. And with how chunky her Hershey's are, you can just go straight through. Straight in, not straight through. The trick is making sure it catches, though. This one keeps rolling off. And you don't want to drill too close to the edge, because you don't want to be able to see the pin. Make sure I'm not, and then I'm in deep enough. It's actually pretty good. I'm gonna go a little bit more. All right, so you got a good groove in there. Clip this off. Put the glue down. Pop the pin in. Okay, there we go. And the final one of the ladies here. Again, it's one of my. Gonna have so much fun with these particular models. Phil also backed Wild in the Streets, so I'll be looking to get in a game with Phil in the very near future, because we're going to get together and do some gaming. If it happens here in our house, let me try to record it. Okay, so don't have a whole lot of area to work with her feet. Let me see if I can make a good flat area. Yeah. You want to come up and get in some games with you guys? Yeah, for sure, man. Phil is up in North Hills. I'm in Orange County, so it's a bit of a jump no matter where we go. But you know, we try to get in games when we can. And it's gonna go right in there. Oh, well, it wasn't quite as deep as I could have made that, but that's okay. You get the point. The little pin there. And then I'm just going to keep going, essentially. The rest of this is pretty straightforward. Same thing. Just clip the tab off, file it down, and pop the pins in. And then these will go into the bases. Look at how thick for the the males, much easier. Big old areas. You know, I might even switch to a bigger pin for the dudes, but I'm not gonna. It's fine. These pins, these tiny pins still do the job. That guy's great. Just ready to swing his hatchet there. A bit bigger than a hatchet. Make sure his feet are nice and clean. And here we go. Based on the time, it doesn't look like I'm going to be priming tonight, but that's okay. I might actually go use a bottle of spray primer instead of airbrush priming, since I got a big batch of these models to do, and spray primers stick better for this kind of work. So there's my homie right there. I have another lady. I have a lady on the crusties here. I don't know how small her feet are, though. I'm sure they're bigger size than the little dainty goth girls. Shoot. Can't find the pin. Where did I stick that? There it is. Okay. So let him dry. Yeah, she's got much bigger feet than the other ladies do. Big old thick tab. Ooh, big chunk of metal there. Yeah, it's kind of a boring night, but again, I wanted to test the quality of the feed, show off some models to you guys. This is going to be a fun project, and I like it because this is a me project. I can do this. This isn't a normal commission or anything like that. I get to just paint these how I want to and enjoy them however I want to. And I will choose to enjoy them by playing while in the streets with them, because that's what they're for. They may make some cameos in like a game of Fistful of Kung Fu or something like that too, though. Because why not? They'd be great for that game as well. Just to reiterate what I'm doing here. All right, put the pin in her. So any other questions on gaming or the feed? You guys have any technical notes for me on the feed? Like how's the video quality? How's the audio quality? Is it better, worse, or the same as the previous live feeds? What else should I be looking at here in order to improve the quality of the stream itself? Let me know. Again, just chopping big old chunks of metal off the bottom of these guys. Pretty cool that you can get that, two-handed like rifle hold out of one-piece model. You know how hard those two-handed rifle holds are to glue on like regular 3 to 4 piece miniature models like Infinity? Woo! Not fun. So glad that that's just done for me on this one. Especially with something like a rifle holder or something like that, you don't need variability in how exactly that rifle is sitting. If you can figure out how to just get them to hold it like that with one piece, I think it's going to look fine. Ooh. Whoa. This guy has slick shoes. You don't have to drill all that deep. All right. Okay, we'll let that dry. So you should be able to actually get all dozen of these built tonight. Just might be a quiet feed because I kind of already did my ramble. I just almost never really talk about stuff like that. I don't really talk about political stuff most of the time, or I try not to. But sometimes stuff just gets to me and I have to call it out. I have to call bullshit where I see bullshit. And I'm frankly getting tired of people politicizing everything. And when it comes to something like having your name mispronounced, I consider myself to be somewhat of an expert on the topic. So I can speak with a little more experience than these, glorified bloggers, aka modern journalists. And honestly, want my honest opinion, they just don't know what they're talking about. They're just regurgitating something that they figured out in university. And it's just so right now it's just so fashionable to call everything bigoted that it disgusts me, disgusts me, because that's it's something that's like, if you want my honest opinion on it, and maybe you don't, but whatever. I hate bringing it up and I hate talking about it, because I don't think, like, for me personally in my life, it's the color of my skin is the least interesting thing about me. That's how I look at it. It's the least interesting thing about me. And that's intentional, right? I don't want that. That's just a circumstance of birth. It's just a consequence of being born. Sometimes you're one color, sometimes you're another color. It doesn't matter ultimately, and it shouldn't matter. And yeah, historically there were times when it did super matter, because your survival was at stake. People did horrible things to each other because of the color of skin. They've done horrific things to each other. But for me, a Gen Xer born in the 70s, and dealing with being migrating to the U.S. and feeling like a foreigner in my native-born country, I have some perspective to share on the subject, and you're not going to and with this whole two-sided argument, there's going to be people on both sides that are not going to like what I have to say about it. Overall, I think it's really stupid, and it's a travesty that it's still a conversation. And I feel like there was a point, at least from my perspective again, I feel like there was a point where I really felt like it was put to rest, for the most part, that, yeah, we acknowledge that some of this horrible stuff still exists, but for the most part, our society had moved quite a ways past it. And now I'm being told, like, things like color blindness, that's bigotry, right? Like, that's basically my existence, and that was like the goal, right? With regards to the whole, race thing. My wife, she says to me, she says very loving manner, like, it's one of the things, I understand your culture and I respect that that's part of who you are. But culturally, I'm American. I just have I have a Asian Pacific Islander background. But I mean, culturally and literally, I'm just as American as the next person, right? And I would tell people that first and foremost, I'm an American, because that's the culture I choose. That's the culture I embrace. To break it down to a skin color, I think is dismissive of who I am, what I strive to be, those kinds of things. So when she says to me in a very loving way, hey, when I look at you, I don't even consider the color of your skin, other than, she finds it physically nice, appealing. It's a nice color itself, but she doesn't look at that. She doesn't look at the tone of my skin and equate it with the person I am. Because like I said, it's I consider it to be the least interesting thing about me. So this whole, with it being such a hot topic these days, I just think I think we're moving backwards. If you want my honest opinion, I think we're moving backwards. I think the thought I had today was that, if I was really truly interested in pushing a bigoted, misogynist, whatever, xenophobic agenda, the very first thing I would do is I would join the politically correct movement. The very first thing I would do was get behind those guys, because in my opinion, those guys are pushing the kind of authoritarian state that would allow me to do whatever bigoted, mean-spirited, authoritarian stuff I felt like doing, under the guise of, hey, I'm here to protect people, or I'm working on behalf of offended or oppressed people. Just my honest opinion, guys. If you don't like it, you don't like it. Whatever. I'm along those lines. I am actually considering, not considering. I am going to do it. I'm going to demonetize my channel because there's no point to it. I mean, if you know, stuff I have to say, I'm just going to say some shit that's on my mind. I'm not going to, and I wouldn't expect it to always be, you know, the most popular opinion. So I'm going to demonetize my channel. It wasn't making me any money anyway. The only reason why I did it was because I wanted to show up on searches just a little bit higher than, you know, the 4th, 5th, or 6th page. When you Google something like, you know, when you search Wild in the Streets on YouTube, and, you know, I'm on page 6 in between War Machine and Hordes and, you know, Space Marines and cats. I'd like to show up on the relevant search. That's why I did it in the first place. But I don't see a point in it anymore. You know, the people viewing this channel are the people viewing the channel. It has its audience. It has the people that watch on here as they please, and sometimes they agree with me, sometimes they don't. But that's cool. That's all part of this really cool platform. A lot of talk, anyways, about how, you know, YouTube is enforcing a advertiser-friendly platform, and they're demonetizing people's videos. Well, my videos don't have enough views to come even close to warranting any sort of money or me being upset about demonetization. I'm just going to go ahead and do it because, you know, the few people that watch this channel shouldn't have to click past ads to watch it. It's stupid. The ads do nothing for either of us, so let's just move past that, right? All right, so let's pin Rob here. Let's go through that foot. But yeah, I mean, I got to talk about stuff like that. I think it's like there was that whole hula doll thing that the chick got upset about and tried to get the Lyft driver fired for having a hula doll on his dashboard. Again, as a Pacific Islander, let me just tell this lady, fuck you. Like, you don't get to do that. You don't get to police other people based on your own guilt. And frankly, the whole sentiment comes from your own deep-seated racism to begin with. So shut up. You don't get to be in charge of that. People rock hula dolls on their dashboard. I think it's great. There's no oppression going on, okay? Real oppression is real oppression, and let's take that seriously. Let's not take a fucking hula doll seriously. I'm just rambling. I realize that. I'm just rambling. But those people that kind of follow the internet, follow this new outrage culture, know what I'm talking about. They know the specific instances that I'm talking about. That one was really, really heinous, that one particular thing with the female passenger that was really offended. Some guy was making light of America's exploitation of the, quote, continent of Hawaii. What an idiot. And me being very, very close to that culture and telling her, shut the F up. I think it's disgusting. I really do. Again, it's like, you know, if I wanted to perpetuate a disease, the way I would continue to keep it around would be to be somebody who's pretending to treat it. If that makes any sense to you guys, to you criminal masterminds out there. All right. So here's the last pin on the crusty. And now let's put that arm on. And then let's start popping these into the herringbone bases. Okay. All right. So there's the last pin in. All right. So now we're going to put her baseball bat arm in. All right. So here's the baseball bat arm. And the pin is way too long. I'm going to cut that at least in half, so all the way there, so where it's just a tiny little nub sticking out there. But trust me, that's going to be enough. That's going to be enough stability such that this model and her arm will be sitting pretty. I've got to dry fit it in there. But there it goes. Right? Okay. And so I'm going to put the glue in and just put it right back in. Hold it there. Now, if I wasn't using a pin, you're going to want to use Kwikset, or you're going to want to hold it in place there for like 20 minutes. But I am using a pin. So I can just press these two parts firmly together. If it's really a problem, I can break out the Kwikset. Actually, you know what? I think I may, just to speed up our assembly process here. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. That. A little bit of Kwikset. Throw a quick cure on that. Oh, actually didn't get anywhere where it was supposed to go. Nonetheless, that should dry pretty well. Ooh. Yeah, having some issues, sorry. Okay, let's put a fresh little dab of glue in there. Okay, I'm just going to hold that there for a few seconds. It's not quite fitting the way I'd like it to. There we go. There. Okay, so she's done. I'm going to let her just strengthen up a little bit. And meanwhile, we're going to start gluing these other guys to their bases. Okay, so let's start with her. It's a really, really simple, straightforward thing from here. All you do is you take her, kind of figure out where she's going to go. I'm going to make a little indent with the pin. Then you draw your hole. And go all the way through, because you can. It's not going to hurt anybody. And drop your glue on. Both feet. And you stick her on there, and voila. Give her a couple of seconds to dry. You can actually, if it's a firm enough fit, you can actually get her to dry on the table, standing up, and there you go. I'll show her in a minute. Let's glue the next one. Let's just keep going. We're gonna finish painting or gluing all these tonight. Just pick your arbitrary spot on the base. And let's glue that in. These are very fast to put together for metal miniature. Again, a lot of people aren't going to pin these. They'll just base around that slot. They'll pop them in the slot and be done. And I don't blame people who do that. It's just I want to have my little herringbone bases here when I do it. Let's do Hatchet Dude. So I pretty much work in that order, the same order I was. So it gives the glue the maximum amount of time to dry on the pin. This stuff is easy peasy. What model range are these? Great question. These are from a game called Wild in the Streets. So check out Slow Death Games. Wild in the Streets, super fun. Hoping to put together a battle report or game report on Wild in the Streets. All right, moving right along. Next, Krusty. Yeah, but I highly recommend that you check these out. They're super cool. The cat crying background. All right. Okay, and let's put her on. So the game is Wild in the Streets. The basing that I'm using is these are Happy Seppuku base stamps, and I'm specifically using for Wild in the Streets. I'm specifically using their brick herringbone stamp. It's a great little basing solution for this game. All right, here's my cool little skinhead guy. There's Chris giving the info on the game. Okay, and I know this is super boring, but you'll be able to see all the models when they're done. You can see I'm like having no issues. Just once they're pinned, just pop them on the base, and they're good to go, man. These are going to be pretty sturdy once they're on the base. And let's do this guy. He's got a little bit of a wider stance. I love it. I keep raving about them being one-piece models, but again, it's so great to have these built. Like, oh yeah, my Kickstarter, done. It's built. Now I have to prime it and paint it, and I'm ready to rock. I can play all the Wild in the Streets that I like. Oh, here's telling you, my favorite guy is this guy, Rerun. He is just so great. The Pudgy Pugilist Rerun. He's so cool. Yeah, I'm thinking about it. What's to stop me from painting my skinheads like the three-man crew from What's Happening? All right, because I got Raj. This is Raj will be the guy holding up the towel. Then you got Dwayne Wayne. He'll be wearing the hat. And then obviously this will be Rerun. Who doesn't like Rerun? I mean, the guy literally changed his name to Rerun because that's what he's known for. The late 70s TV show, What's Happening, which, by the way, one of my favorite shows growing up. Loved watching What's Happening. Super boring show, but I really liked it. Anybody else old enough to remember the show What's Happening? Raj, Shirl. Remember they did basically a reprise of the show What's Happening Now, when Raj is an older guy. He's I think he's married in the older the newer show, and it's about his life. Shirl is still on the show, and Rerun is still on the show. Man, What's Happening? You guys have to. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google it, and then you can laugh at me for being such an old man. It's totally fine with me. You want to? All right, let's do Rob. Rob's he's got a really wide stance, so this is a little trickier. You got to make sure he's still gonna be on what I call the playable part of the base. Woo! When he's pinned. Ow. I think I messed up my drill a little bit right there. Not to mention my finger. Sometimes when you're pinning stuff, you'll prick the end of your finger. You'll end up bleeding out. Well, not bleeding out, but you bleed quite a bit, especially with like really intricate models. There's still the most popular, I think, post on the Play It Painted feed was the shot of my bloodied up hands as I finished assembling a Eldorado starter, because it had super fiddly models on it. So I'm glad, like, most people showed the most interest in the physical paint I was in. Okay, I think I'm gonna go with that's a yucky base. This is a decent base. This one right here. This one's still a little soft. This is one of the ones that we stamped earlier. Still a little soft, but you can, I can almost just shove the model's pin through there. It's not a bad thought, actually. See if I can, rather than drill it. Yeah. There. Just shoved it in there with. I think that's going to be better for her. So we'll stick her in there. There. And there's her. Okay. One more guy to go. And all the Wild in the Street stuff will be built. And he will also be using one of these bases that I just recently stamped tonight. So again, I can pretty much just use the pin to poke the hole. Right. And then I can even use the feet to give just a little bit of an impression on the surface of the base. So here we go. All right. Cool. So I'm going to let these dry for a bit and give you guys a little bit of a wide shot here. Oh yeah, I totally remember What's Happening. Love that show, man. What's Happening was great. I actually, believe it or not, I liked What's Happening more than Good Times. Good Times got a little too real at times. The show Good Times was not the title Good Times, maybe not so indicative of what really happened on the show on a regular basis. But I did like Good Times. I thought Good Times was good. What's Happening? Love the intro music and the three guys walking down the street for What's Happening. One of my favorite TV show openings ever. Loved it. Okay. So here we go. Let me see. I got all this trash here, all these like metal clips and stuff. But here we go. Okay, so here's, whoa. Sorry, camera's waving around quite a bit here. But anyways, there's my Wild in the Streets. They're all built now. I actually, like I said, I do have two gangs that I previously painted on the show. And I have pictures of those gangs. They're super fun. Really love the characters here. I'm going to show you guys while we're just hanging out. And I'm going to close the show here in a minute. But while we're just hanging out, I'm going to give you a little bit of a primer on the game. Like I was saying, the game, it uses a really simple D10 resolution for the combats. So at its base, it's a very, very easy game to follow. What makes it interesting is the theme for one, but how that theme is actually baked into the game itself. And games that now, when games have a good theme and a good aesthetic to their miniatures, I'm pretty much in at that point. It's when they can merge that, when they can marry that theme and really give you the flavor of that in the gameplay, that's what I consider to be a good game. All right, so here's Wild in the Streets. Like I said, it's D10 based, but it uses a deck of cards for its activation. And right here, the 80s neon pink over the blue. I mean, that just gives you a good, like a really good theme to the game. The card quality is really nice, and the cards they're just as simple as can be. Like, they're really simple, but they're fantastic. They give you, like, here's Tristan. She's a character for the Murder Cult Girls. She's holding a broken bottle here. I painted my Kristen to look kind of like a Harley Quinn type homage, because she's kind of wearing this one piece, like almost like a roller derby murder outfit. So I had mine in clown makeup, and she's got the little Harley Quinn diamond on her, and she's got the broken glass. But anyways, this is how simple the stats are. So you have a move, fight, throw, a dodge. These are all, with the exception of like move, wounds, and models. These three stats, throw, fight, and dodge, are basically they're basically modifiers to the D10 opposed roll system. It's a very simple system. Like, you know, when you're fighting, you're going to roll your fight. The other person's trying to dodge, they'd roll their dodge, and that's what they would add to the value of the D10 roll. Okay, so Tristan, like I was saying, Murder Cult Girls. This is that's the gang that I already have. Death Rockers, I also have. You know, this one's really cool. The chick that's gonna make out with the skull, and then the Mohawk chick, really cool. Dave is a guy that can lead either the Goth or the Death Rockers. So these are the models that I have already. I don't have them handy. I should show you guys the models at some point. Okay, so those were two gangs there: Death Cult, Murder Cult Girls, and the Death Rockers. Right. Then you have the Straight Edge or the Edge Men, which are the two I was showing you: the guy with a baseball bat and the guy with a hatchet. Edge Men, their leader Rob. So his stat. Sid was the promotional model. He's the one that I didn't build tonight because I already have one painted up and ready to go. Drunk Punks are the Crusties. Really cool. Those are the two with they're holding up, you can see they're holding up the beer. Skinheads, right? And you got Don, he's the leader of the Skinheads, but he can also lead the Straight Edge faction as well. And you got the Goths. And Dave can lead the Goths too, which is cool. And then here's some of the here's some of the other cards. Like, you'll get dealt these cards at the start of the game too. Some of them are upgrades, and you can add them. Like, you can add those to the deck when you're ready to do that. But you don't know that you're going to get that upgrade. Like, you put it in the deck, but it can show up later in the game. Somebody else can take it and use it. This one you hang on to when you get it, and you get +1 dodge rolls until the next shuffle. Left the bat in my other pants. So they're really fun, flavorful things that are included in the rules. So it's a very basic system at its heart, but it really does kind of give you the feel for fringe culture, modern day skirmish. We'll call it gang warfare. Homemade speed. Check out this flavor text on this card. And this is really where Wild in the Streets gets it for me. Like, this is where I'm sold. Someone's mom was kind enough to cook up some homemade speed. Hang on to this card to use it to ignore one wound. Cannot be applied to Straight Edge model. See, there you go. If you're running a Straight Edge gang, you can't. They're not going to take drugs. They're not. So it would make no sense that the Straight Edge would use homemade speed. It's the cops. Run. I love that. All models drawn after this card can only make run moves and must move towards the nearest table edge, because the cops have come to raid your fight. See, it's stuff like that I absolutely love about this game. Love the flavor of the models. Again, it's just such a great. It's almost a crossover skirmish game, because you can use this for people that aren't your typical miniature gamers, to introduce them to some very basic concepts of miniature gaming, and actually maybe even pique their interest enough to be like, hey, that's a really artistic thing that you're doing, but it's also a very linear and mathematical thing. So that's going to appeal to people, in my opinion, on both sides of the brain. And, you know, you might have some people that cross over and start to play miniatures games as a result of a game like Wild in the Streets. I'm really looking forward to getting these painted, getting them on the table, and then playing some games with of Wild in the Streets. Particularly, I want to play the group I'm most interested in would be the Goth Girls, led by Dave. Also, really interested in the Crusties, the drunks, or the drunk punks. I think they're fantastic. So anyway, have you watched Cooley High? No, I haven't. I should watch. I should watch Cooley High. But anyway, that's gonna do it for this show. I was hoping I might have time to prime the models. That doesn't look like it's gonna happen tonight, but that's okay. Again, let me do a little sweeping shot of these models, so you can see that's what we built tonight. A little bit of trash on the table and some extra stuff here, but you get it, right? Very fun model set. Wild in the Streets. Really looking forward to playing more of this game. And I want to give you guys some formal thoughts on the game when I have a chance. So hopefully we'll get to that very soon. All right. So if there aren't any more comments or questions, I think I'm going to close the stream at this time. I'll give it another minute or so because of the delay. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm interested in seeing hearing your thoughts on what stream format I should use. If I should use this Google Hangout format so that I can invite people onto the stream. I think it might be cool to have Chris from Slow Death Games to pop on when these are done and talk a little bit about his game. And I can share my experiences live as well. I think that would be really cool. So that's one option, or I can stick with the XSplit format, which would give us a little more flexibility and maybe some more camera angles. We could do that as well. Let me know what you think. Was the video quality okay? Sound is going to be something that I'm going to continue to work on as well as lighting. So anyways, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for showing off Wild in the Streets. Hey, thanks for making a really cool game. Once again, I'm excited to jump back into it. It's just great. I really enjoy the theme, and I think it's a fun game. Okay. Thanks again for watching, guys. Everybody have a good night, and we will catch you on the next one, whenever that is, right? Could be tomorrow, could be, who knows. Talk to you guys later. Bye.